Hello everybody, it's Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading on February 17, 2026. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to read a letter dated September 7, 2020. And this letter was written by Karen M. Stewart, retired NSA intelligence analyst. She wrote it to the White House. So here we go. I am writing to you on behalf of human trafficking and torture victims you apparently have left out of this category and to whom you and the Trump administration are neglecting to offer help and inclusion, much less recognize as such. Did you mean to do this, or are you simply grossly uninformed? I'm speaking about targeted individuals, quote unquote, or FISA, DHS, FBI, Fusion Center scapegoats, known innocent people declared threats and their lives ruined or taken. The false pretense upon which our country is being turned into a police state. We estimate hundreds of thousands of innocent Americans to be victims of DHS, FBI, Fusion Centers, human trafficking and torture programs based on fraudulent FISA warrants, quote unquote. Historically, Fusion Centers have refused to be accountable for the money the U.S. government and state governments pump into them. They have made it known to Congress that they view accountability as a joke. Yet they're ever expanding in numbers and locations. What is that money spent on? When is the last time they uncovered a terrorist plot? When have they ever? Would it surprise you to hear that Fusion Centers are using tax money to create and expand a national network of secret, unconstitutional, standing armies of quote-unquote vigilantes and mercenaries for the elite? We are secretly being divided into a predator-prey dystopia. Mercenaries who literally criminally stalk, harass, torture, and harm innocent people falsely accused and framed of being terrorists, pedophiles, mentally ill, etc. Undesirable. So Fusion Centers can pretend that there are enough quote-unquote threats out there to justify their existence. Gross overreach and continuing growth. Think Gestapo. Think coercion. See Shadowgate regarding contractors paid to frame people. Shadowgate, and this was, she left a link here to go to BitChute. While they are very successful in bribing gullible civilian dupes who clearly failed civics classes, ethics, and history to participate as their criminal proxies in conspiracy to defraud the government, torture, and murder, they are also bullying, coercing, bribing entire communities to quote-unquote secretly cooperate. Healthcare professionals, lawyers, EMTs, local authorities, businesses, churches, mosques, temples, PTAs, and other social and unprofessional or professional organizations. Oh, well, one of the lead fascist far patriot groups is the seditious FBI's Infragard. They're trained in militaristically precise multi-person stalking harassment, and they operate in cells on schedules to harass various victims on a rotating schedule to maximize and minimize the ability of victims to identify single stalkers, which is the standard most states go by in regard to criminal activity, unaware of and indifferent to FBI-run gang stalking, RICO crimes. They can be overt to intimidate or covert to wield high-tech weapons against the victim wherever he or she goes, putting others in harm as well. Yes, that's right. They don't care if they place other people in harm that aren't targeted. Patterns and practices. Identify a victim, random or a designed hit, quote unquote, ordered by the good old boy associate, federal or not. Fabricate a false dossier on him or her to get a FISA approval. She says that my warrant is re-upped every 3 months by the Tallahassee Fusion Center, calling her phone number with an 850 area code, but with it self-identifying as quote-unquote North Korea. Yes, that's all it takes to stay on the fraud watch list, terrorist watch list. Switch the surveillance warrant, quote-unquote, to non-investigative surveillance. This means a vicious 24/7 harassment through hacking your internet, hacked phone, interception of all communications, including U.S. mail, package delivery systems, neighbors, constant flow of civilian mercenaries, as well as the following. Block communication via email, U.S. Post Office mail, phone spoofing, package delivery when deemed desirable. You know, like when they stole my little kitty cat socks, and what's his name? Clifford England signed for my little kitty cat socks. Oh, yeah. Oh, guess he must be part of the problem here. Send operatives Fusion Center badges through victim's neighborhood to slander him, fear and hate monger, and ensure silence, if not cooperation. Bribe line-of-sight neighbors to operate invisible and mostly silent directed energy weapons or devices. Anti-personnel size from their properties aimed at the victims 24/7 from at least 3 locations simultaneously, with auxiliary neighbors to fill in when someone's away, like those used on the diplomats in Cuba and China. This is to physically and psychologically torture the victim, who is powerless to prove that the weapons which they're trained on him even exist, to inept, complicit authorities, thus leaving him powerless to stop the lethal assaults. And whenever they talk about non-lethal weapons, that's just another oxymoron, sort of like Homeland Security, non-lethal weapons, oxymorons. Increase the power several times a day to not only physically but also psychologically harm the victim by telegraphing each increase. The strength is ratcheted up several times a day to vary it, to make the damaging effects less obviously due to electromagnetic radiation desiccating or cooking the person internally. Assault power increases are often, quote-unquote, announced for psychological effect by the extended beeping signal of a complicit neighbor heard by line-of-sight neighbors, who then dutifully turn up the power of the device they have aimed at the victim from their property or even their car. Oh yeah, that's like my neighbor diagonally across the street, which significantly increases the pain and discomfort of the victim. Block or neighborhood captains run by fusion centers, quote-unquote, order the time and frequency of power increases daily. Let's say they start the power at 3 of 10, are ratcheted up to a 5 or 7, and then a 9, with 10 immediately lethal. Throughout the night, starting again at daybreak at 3 a.m. Another psychological ploy to this is to pay a person to drive past the victim's house, blasting a car horn, as other means to signal and torment the victim, who knows in about 10 minutes his pain threshold will increase. Instruct the police deputies to treat anyone with such complaints as, quote-unquote, a crazy person. Deny them equal protection under the law. Ignore, criticize, mock, belittle, threaten, misrecord, misrepresent police reports, if they even take them, to frame the person and not the actual fusion center protected criminal harassers, if possible. Police are also encouraged to unprofessionally assess the person as, quote-unquote, crazy to put in a national database to ensure they get no protection anywhere they go and are on a give them hell list. Despite police being incapable of such a medical assessment and even at times contrary to existing professional assessments, medical doctors and technicians are coerced or bribed to not give proper test results or diagnosis either, and to hide the actual health deterioration causes by constant exposure to contraband electromagnetic weapons that evoked unique damage. And it must be assumed coroners are told to downplay abnormalities too. Many victims' families report their loved one is being cremated, quote unquote, by mistake as well. All victims will be found to have non-consensual chips, GPS and other 3 at least to triangulate weapons on the brain, along with nanoparticles secreted into them via IV infusions, whether opportunistically during a medical procedure or done nocturnally after knocking out the person in their own home. Intended victims have reported staged car accidents by fusion center proxies to harm them and get them into a hospital setting to need IV fluids. Electromagnetic weapons may be used 70 to 80% of fusion center torture assassinations. Other means of slow extermination involve poisons and gases. Some are DNA specific. The daily effects are unimaginably monstrous and deleterious. As with electromagnetic assaults, everyone in the household, family, or pets are harmed and eventually murdered, leaving no witnesses. Another means of torture or assassination involves body area networks, also done without the victim's consent. These are used by various transhumanism biomedical partners to experiment and gather data. Sometimes they're used to degrade the victim's health, mimicking a certain degenerative disease in order to better understand the disease process, in order to create lucrative treatments for people who naturally fall victim to that disease by using previously healthy people in whom the disease was induced. Of course, the victim is never healed once they have provided all the data their non-consensual abuse has provided. There are indications that, like the 9/11 victims, thousands of fraudulent life insurance policies, trust funds, and ghost property ownership agreements pay off the FBI, Fusion Center, Infragard, local police management, etc., upon the victim's death, as well as garnering profits all along the way from the military-industrial complex contractors for providing, quote-unquote, biospecimens for them. I'm writing to you to get some kind of acknowledgement. Hundreds of thousands, if not 2 to 3 million of us, are being viciously attacked, tortured, and murdered by pea-brain psychopath neighbor vigilantes under the color of law, as directed by FBI Fusion Center personnel and Infragard mercenaries. When can we expect our government to stop rogue Fusion Center seditionists from torturing and murdering us? They're protected, but if we dare try to defend ourselves, then we will be dealt with as criminals? This is indeed part of the FBI program to either outright exterminate us or provoke us to try to save our own lives in order to incarcerate us or kill us as quote-unquote threats. I know exactly who my murderers are, and I can point them out to actual real law enforcement, if there are any left anywhere. Local law enforcement is typically worthless, and they get hung up on by the FBI as soon as they hear my name, Clearly, I am a red flag to be denied equal protection under the law. I'm a retired National Security Agency intelligence analyst who was targeted on the orders of William B. Black Jr. and other crooked managers of the NSA because I can point to other intelligence analysts who know. Oh my God, this is not going to be good. 9/11 was an inside job, and I know the deep state Mossad was running a honeypot sexual blackmail operation inside the NSA Weapons and Space Directorate in that time frame, and likely still is. Does this sound like I am a terrorist? Yep. No one is interested in previous, much less ongoing mass murder, espionage, treason. Clearly, I will be dead before anyone wakes up to and listens. I had sudden inexplicable health damage within 6 months of targeting, inflammation of the brain, bleeding of the brain, blood clotting, leaking into the upper throat, retinal scarring, heart damage, desiccation, thickening of the left ventricle, a growth in my hand, multiple occurrences of radiation, dermatitis, and calcification of blood veins that I know of. Most of the other innocent fusion center human trafficking victims are at a daily risk of dying or incurring seriously debilitating damage. I cannot believe the satanic country in which I live and the utterly psychopathic, satanic Americans who live around me and think the government can just murder anybody it wants to, and others are free to pile on for the easy money. It is beyond discouraging. Let me know if we have any hope that the Trump administration knows about this and will do something soon to help the first intended victims of deep state mass murder. People are losing hope. We have lost many to suicide. We're seemingly invisible despite years of letters and calls to the White House, our representatives, local and federal authorities, yet our suffering is on par with the very worst human rights abuse victims, or very close to it. Some have gotten third-degree burns from weapons while sleeping in their own beds at night. I and many others have referred to this as, quote unquote, the silent Holocaust. America has even influenced other countries to prey on their own people, such that there is no country known where one can escape slow torture, assassination, and human trafficking in this vein. This was written by Karen Stewart, NSA intelligence analyst, retired. She's the author of a 6-month series of award-winning top-secret reports in 2002 that alerted U.S. forces to the existence of Russian-made GPS jammers in Iraq tailored to U.S. weaponry, which the Pentagon estimated and top NSA management concurred saved an estimated 2,000 American lives during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Witnesses' names are available. I was targeted initially for asking why the branch bimbo received my double promotion for my work. She turned out to be one of those damn honeypots. Likely deep state or Mossad. And these are not my words, men and women, boys and girls. I'm merely reading an article, a letter written to the White House. Now, let's continue with the targeted individuals list of demands that she wrote to the White House. Whereas the United States of America illegally and in a heinously cowardly fashion declared a secret war upon its own non-combatant unarmed citizens under pretense of the inside 9/11 attack, which it too is responsible for, then continued the war crimes, human rights crimes, and financial exploitation crimes against certain American citizens and other non-combatant unarmed citizens without cause but for profit. We, your victims, demand immediate cessation of your criminal assaults upon us and at all levels and in all locations. First and foremost, we demand complete medical care to properly diagnose and treat the health damage your attacks have caused. We demand the most advanced treatments at no cost to ourselves whatsoever. We demand lifelong free health care and treatments as you took it upon yourselves to harm our present health and sabotage our future health. We further demand the same for our family members and even our pets, and to treat or replace the dead ones who were present during your assault. Oh, I've got a long list of those. We further demand that you will repay not only the monetary harm that you have caused us over our lifetime, starting with $1 million to each for the interim, but we also demand the seizure of all assets of every single military industrial complex entity, other affiliated contractors, private businesses, corporations, medical laboratories, hospitals, universities, tech companies, private security firms, private citizens, etc., affiliated with this criminal effort or whose weapons products were used to harm us. Yes, that was to seize all of their assets. We further demand that the assets of every single organization which facilitated our persecution, torture, and murder be seized for future redistribution to us, their victims. We also demand that the CEOs, presidents, managers, employees of such entities who knew about and facilitated this program have all their personal and corporate assets seized, added to the pot, to be tried, imprisoned, executed for crimes against humanity, war crimes, as well as human trafficking, and appropriate by military tribunal forthwith. We also demand that every single person in the chain of command, private or government, local or federal, who knew about it and carried this program out and covered it up, be dealt with similarly, as well as the greedy, psychopathic Infragard, civilian co-conspirators who gladly participated, as well as affiliated non-member civilians in our towns and neighborhoods. We furthermore demand exemptions from all taxes whatsoever, state, federal, sales tax, property taxes, inheritance taxes for the children, families, and victims. We demand special status, an ID reflecting that, so that the authorities who ignored and abused us will know to give us due respect, courtesy, and know that we cannot be hassled for fabricated or even minor infractions without serious consequences to them and their careers. Our requests and questions will be handled properly, never blown off or responded to with false information. Our special IDs will bring us to the front of any line or wait for service as well if we wish to. In redistribution to society that gratuitously treated us worse than dirt. Oh, like that veterinarian biatch, Dr. Rebecca Caleb-Wilson, who said that because I'm not friends with her friends, she could not spay, neuter all the cats that were dumped on this property, pregnant and otherwise. Or how about the disgusting landscapers that I paid, and that they were getting paid on the side to damage my property. Yeah. And if we wish it, we will be given land upon which to build a community or several communities to live separately and protected from society, which so heinously and cruelly abused us. We will decide the rules and laws of that community, but in accordance with the Constitution, and we will be provided a special force by the federal government, superseding all others for our protection, but under our authority following the Constitution. We demand top quality medical center as well in any such community or access to one nearby. We demand that any community we deem necessary be built with state-of-the-art materials to fully protect us from any directed energy weapons attacks ever again, and that a special security service be employed 24/7 to detect and neutralize such threats, along with state-of-the-art devices and methodologies to protect us from toxic gases and poisons. And individuals' houses not in such a community must meet similar standards. However, we demand full autonomy over any community or communities we deem needed or desired, with the ability to deny entry to anyone. We also demand that as many as possible of our persecutors never return to society, and that their crimes can only be characterized as human predation, which cannot be cured any more than rabies in a dog. After prison terms, if not executed, they will be housed in separate camps and given menial jobs for the rest of their lives. It can be assumed that such victims have post-traumatic stress disorder or anxiety issues and need a safe haven. Many indeed may choose to live within society, but they must be given deference and respect in reference to the abuse they suffered at the hands of a callous and predatory society. They must have authorities instructed to snap to the fulfillment of their needs. Remuneration will be made up from seized assets based on number of years targeted, the actual losses, career potential sabotaged, punitive damages for emotional, mental, and physical abuse, and from government payments to the victims for the rest of their lives for insult and injury wrongfully inflicted upon them and their family members, and pets, I'm going to add, and property. The details are negotiable to a degree, but you understand our mindset at such depraved betrayal by our own country and government. What needs to happen now is the targeted individual's ability to immediately apply for help as a human trafficking victim and be given safe harbor, sustenance, and medical treatment, as well as full protection. We are dying and incurring fatal injuries and permanent damage right now due to a rogue corporatocracy and a police state for profit. I await your reply on how we may get started right away to get these victims to safety. We can guide you as to how to flush out these criminals. A very good technical guide to finding computer-based illegal hacking, tracking of us by various entities can be found at Bibi Pedish's YouTube under SHP. It's invaluable. Karen M. Stewart, National Security Agency, retired, 28 years of service. And 14 years from 2006. Now, she wrote this in 2020. I'm going to assume it's still continuing. To 2020, illegally targeted in total. So the writing of this, it was 14 years. So she wrote this in 2020. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate your efforts, your words, and what restitution should look like back in 2020. Wow. I can't even calculate how much money I'm owed. I can't even calculate that. Besides the fact that I actually know so many of the people involved in my targeting, including a lawyer, multiple lawyers, magistrate, criminal neighbors, judges, county judges, the Manalapan Police Department. Not the whole police department, about 6 or 8 of those creatures. Oh, and then the neighbors next door, diagonally across. Yes, Steve and Vicky. The neighbors next door, the criminal neighbors next door, and then the Russian spies next door. I don't even remember their names. Yeah, but those New Jersey creatures. Oh, then we've got the sheriff, right? And the Bow Wow family, The people that tore down my gate, Jezebel with the blue, oh, the lights are not blue anymore, boys and girls. They're orange. Flickering orange lights. Yes, and vehicles that park there with their lights shining on my property. Yes, exactly. Oh, and then of course there's the neighbor that I've never met in 6.5 years. That must be one of those houses where they're triangulating me. Line of sight. But thank you so much, Karen, for writing this article. Please leave your comments down below. I believe the article, the letter, was stellar. And if anybody would like a copy of some of this, I have a PDF, so it cannot be changed. It's Human Trafficking and Torture, she entitled it.